Koryo-Saram. The name ethnic Koreans in the post-Soviet states used to refer to themselves. Approximately 500,000 ethnic Koreans reside in the former USSR, primarily in the newly independent states of Central Asia. Large Korean communities in southern Russia around Volgograd, the Caucasus, and southern Ukraine also exist. Those communities traces their roots to Koreans who lived in the Russian Far East during the late 19th century. A separate ethnic Korean community lives on the island of Sakhalin, typically known as Sakhalin Koreans. Some may identify as Koryo-Saram but many do not, unlike the communities on the Russian mainland, which consist mostly of immigrants from the late 1800s and early 1900s. The ancestors of the Sakhalin Koreans came as immigrants from Gyeongsang and Jeolla provinces in the late 1930s and early 1940s, forced into service by the Japanese government to work in coal mines in Sakhalin, then known as Karafuto Prefecture, to fill labor shortages caused by the World War II. Koryo-Saram in Russia constitute one of the largest ethnic Korean communities in the Korean diaspora. The majority immigrated from Korea before the division of Korea into North and South, and before the Japanese annexation of Korea. Koryo-Saram maintained a commitment to see a Korea independent of Japanese rule between 1910 to 1945, forming guerrilla army forces engaging the Japanese army. After the division of Korea into Communist North and Democratic South in 1948 and after the Korean War, most Koryo-Saram have decided to remain in Russia as their new home. Maintaining Korean culture and language has proven a challenge for the Koryo-Saram. The name Koryo-Saram appears to originate from the word Korea rather than from the Goryeo dynasty. Prior to the collapse of the Soviet Union, Koreans in Russia went by the name Soviet Korean. Russians often lump Koryo-Saram under the general label Koretsi. That usage makes no distinctions between ethnic Koreans of the local nationality and the Korean nationals, citizens of South and North Koreas. In Standard Korean, the term Koryo-Saram typically refers to historical figures from the Goryeo dynasty. To avoid ambiguity, Korean speakers use a word Goryeo, or in Korea, like a Korean calligraphy, and Hanja, meaning the same as Koryo-Saram, to refer to ethnic Koreans in the post-Soviet states. The Sino-Korean morpheme in is not productive in Koryo-Mar, the dialect spoken by Koryo-Saram. As a result, only a few, mainly those who have studied Standard Korean, refer to themselves as Goryeo. Instead, Koryo-Saram has become the preferred term. The Joseon dynasty of Korea declined during the 19th century. A small population of wealthy elite owned the farmlands in the country, poor peasants finding difficulty to survive. Koreans living the country during that time moved toward Russia, as the Qing dynasty sealed the border with Korea.